Hmm. Hey, Michael,
Yes, Jim.
what cinematic road are we traveling down today?
Roads? Well, we're going. We don't need roads. All right, welcome to You Gotta See This Movie. This is a podcast about two guys who love to talk about movies as well as talk about the deeper things that make these stories more than just a movie. I'm Michael, and the man in the gray shirt is Jim.
Hello.
And this is our big series finale.
Series. It's big.
All roads lead to this.
You want to know why it's big?
Why?
Because this is my all-time favorite number one movie.
Is it really?
It is.
Wow, I did not know it was number one.
It's number one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
What is
Yeah.
your number one anyway?
It's Raiders.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we did your number one.
Raiders or Jaws. I go back and forth on those.
Well,
two
I
movies.
go Back to the Future or Super 8.
Okay.
Okay. But this is numero uno.
Numero uno. Yeah. All right. Well, if you're into that kind of thing, please consider giving us a like and subscribing, and letting us know in the comments what your favorite number one movie is. I'd actually like to know. It's like one of my favorite questions I like to ask people. What's your favorite movie?
It's hard because there's so many,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to nail it down to one.
I can instantly know if I'm going to be friends with somebody if they, one, give me an answer, even if it's a crappy movie and I don't like it.
Yeah.
But it's usually the people that be like, oh, I don't have time for movies. I don't know. Then I'm like, okay, you and me, we're out. I don't think we're
I'm not
going to.
really into movies.
I'm not really. into
I'm more of
movies.
I read books.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
books are always better than the movie.
Yeah. So that's my thing.
Yeah.
But all right. So we are here. Back to the Future. All roads lead to this. We have been talking about this movie. We personally have talked about this movie a lot, just in our relationship and how long we've known each other. So I always know that this has been the special movie in your heart. Didn't know it was your number one, but I'm excited for this episode. So here we are. But so my first question to you before we get into all Back to the Future, we know it has to do with time travel.
Mm-hmm.
My question to you is, if you had to make a time machine out of something, not a DeLorean, it's already taken. If you had to make a time machine out of something, what would it be and where would you go?
Oh, wow. Is it a car or is it just anything?
Anything. Could be a car,
Wow.
could be a motorcycle.
I'm almost thinking it would have to be something a little more, I don't know, like an RV, 'Cause
Like a Winnebago?
yeah, because what if you land somewhere and I'm in the desert and I need food or something.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so RV. Now where would you go?
I'm not. Don't hold me to it because that's kind of uncool. But okay.
But it's practical. It made
It's practical.
sense.
I was thinking more on a practical level.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't use a moped. So, yeah. And where would I go? I'd probably go. I don't know. I keep thinking about the past and like correcting my dumb mistakes. You think about stupid stuff you did when you're like a teenager or a kid, and you're just like, oh, why did I do that?
So
that
you
was
would find young Jim.
But then I might mess everything up.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know.
Just be like, knock it off.
I'd be too spooked to go to the future because what if you pop in and then in the middle of a nuclear war and then you get killed,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or like a creature comes and gets you because there's mutants in the world.
yeah.
That's interesting.
That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So what would you?
Oh
make it out
man.
of?
I would make a time machine out of a Camaro.
Oh, a Camaro.
I had a Camaro growing up. I loved it. And, but you're right. It's not as practical. And I almost think that maybe the RV is a good get. So
A small one, not
Small one.
not like a real big, huge.
yeah.
One. Yeah.
And where I would go, honestly, I've thought about this, and there's a lot of things you can go in the past, but it's also very dangerous. Right? I wouldn't want to show up in the medieval times because, well, I'm probably going to get killed for being like a witch or a wizard or something, right?
Yeah.
And yeah. So to me, I've always thought one of the coolest things that I missed out on, I would love to be a witness and to see, was to be in America during the moon landing. Like, I think that was just like such a cool event to just be, and like neighbors getting together and just like kind of like the whole world taking a collective like breath, like, oh my gosh, we're actually going to do this. And so I just think that's such a cool moment, and wish I was there to see it. So I'd go back to watch that.
All right.
Yeah.
All
right. So with that, what is the movie that we got to see?
Back to the Future, 1985. Marty McFly, a 17-year-old high school student, is accidentally sent 30 years into the past in a time-traveling DeLorean invented by his close friend, the maverick scientist, Doc Brown. Maverick.
I guess he is a maverick. He's kind of above the law, right?
Yeah.
So I like how it says like he accidentally goes back in time, because I mean...
Well, he does accidentally go back in time.
But he was given the instructions on how everything works, and he hopped into the car.
Yeah, but he wasn't going. It wasn't.
It's true.
Yeah.
I just feel like he knew what he was doing. Anyways, all right. So a movie in a nutshell. The movie's about a guy named Marty. He accidentally goes back in time, meets his parents before they get together, before they, fall in love, and by some mishap, the mom falls in love with him, her son, which is weird in itself, but surprisingly it works in the movie. And so Marty's trying to fix the past so that he can get back to his future, hence the term Back to the Future. So your history with this.
My history. Okay, so 1985, right out of high school. Well, out of 84, but so I was pretty much the same age as Marty, which is kind of cool at the time. I don't recall seeing it in the theater. I'm pretty sure I went with a couple of my friends. Vague memory of it.
Yeah.
Pretty much it. When was the first time you saw it?
I think I mentioned it in the Goonies podcast. So I didn't see this movie right away. I think I was 4.
Oh, you got it on the tape, right?
I got it on the tape.
The triple tape.
I was sick. Yeah, the triple tape with Goonies, Gremlins, and then Back to the Future. And I can remember, I think out of all 3 of those movies, Back to the Future was the one I was most excited about, because I think I always heard about it, and I'd see pictures, and I can remember thinking that, I don't know, like in my kid brain, I thought it was all about him going into the future. But I understand now why it's called Back to the Future. But I remember as a kid for a lot of years, I'm like, I don't understand why they call it Back to the Future. He never goes to the future, but
because
he's trying to get back to his future.
It's just future, and the title implies that you're going to the
past. But I loved it, and to me, it was the first time I ever seen a DeLorean. So I didn't grow up knowing what a DeLorean is, and to be honest with you, for a while, I thought it was just a made up car. I didn't know it was a real car.
Oh, really?
That they made. And I remember going to Universal Studios, and they had that opportunity where you can go and sit in it, into the DeLorean, and
they let you sit in it?
Yeah, I remember I have pictures of me. There was like a DeLorean I don't think it was the movie one, but they had a DeLorean there where you can go in, sit, and take a picture, and then
that's cool.
You pop out.
The only one I remember at Universal was the one that was on the tram tour, sitting in the dirt, on the back. They would drive past the movie cars, and it was getting all beat up.
Yeah. No, I have memories of like sitting in that car, and then like looking at the lights, and my grandparents took me to see that one. And it was all of a sudden I saw DeLorean just driving around, thinking like, whoa, they have that Back to the Future car. How did they get that? And then realizing, no, it was a real car. They made it, but
that's cool.
Yeah, so I saw it when I was sick, loved it ever since. See it probably once a year, and I don't really want to get into the sequels too much, but when the part 2 and 3 came out, I remember being blown away just by the mere fact the way part 2 ended and went right into To Be Continued part 3.
Yeah, and then they showed that, and I do remember going to the theater, Santa Anita Fashion Park for the second movie. And then, it was like right after they did the trailer for the third one. I'm like, whoa.
It's like, I didn't even know they were making a third one.
They already got it in the can. Look at that. Yeah.
So
I was like,
they have all this stuff. What? All movies should do this.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. That's cool. All right. Well, let's talk about the actors in the movie, because this, for a lot of them, this was like their iconic role, right? This is the role almost they can't live down. This is who they are, and they kind of own it. And I think one of the biggest stars at the time, well, Michael J. Fox was a big star, but Christopher Lloyd had already been doing things, like he was on Taxi, and so I think I don't know if he was the bigger. You would tell me, was he the bigger name at the time, or was it Michael J. Fox? Because I know.
No, I think Michael J. Fox was still the bigger name, because he was on Family Ties.
Yeah.
He was on TV, so he had a lot more exposure, I think, to the to the public.
Yeah.
Because he was on TV versus the movies, and Christopher Lloyd was in a lot of things, but I don't remember him being a big. Although he was on TV too, like Taxi, right?
Taxi,
but yeah,
big guy.
Yeah.
But I think one thing we can both agree on is like this was 100% perfectly casted.
Oh yeah.
Like they couldn't have done better. Of course, I'm like I know, but they had a different actor for Marty, right?
Yeah.
So they actually did cast this movie a little bit poorly, and things would have completely, from what I understand, it would have been a different tone of a movie.
Well, they didn't cast it poorly. They wanted Michael J. Fox originally, right? But they couldn't get him, so they settled on why can't I think of his name?
Eric Schultz.
Yeah, Eric Stoltz.
Yeah.
Stoltz. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually I didn't hear that. I heard that. Okay, so I know how they found Michael J. Fox. I know that story.
Okay, what's your story? Because I guess we have different stories. We have different behind the scenes stories.
All right. So the internet can tell us who's right.
Okay.
So from what I know was that Eric Stoltz was hired. Great actor. I always wonder how he felt about, because he got fired from this role. But I guess him and Zemeckis clashed a lot. Like Stoltz kind of thought the movie was going to be a bit more dramatic.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Tongue in cheek, and so it just wasn't. They just weren't having it. But they filmed already a lot of it already. So Michael J. Fox was in where they filmed both these movies. There's scenes in Pasadena for this movie, and Michael J. Fox was making Teen Wolf. And while he was making Teen Wolf, a producer, somebody walked over to the Teen Wolf set, saw him in it, and said, "Hey, I think this guy might be a better replacement."
Oh, so they found him from Teen Wolf.
Yes, like while they're filming Teen Wolf.
Okay.
So, I was watching a documentary on Teen Wolf, and like all the directors and producers were so glad that they got him first. They said because he blew up after Back to the Future.
Right.
Had they got him after, they said we probably wouldn't have gotten him. It'd been too expensive. And not only that, but they released Teen Wolf after Back to the Future, so they got a good bump in.
Oh, okay.
And and Michael J. Fox. So that was a story I heard.
Well, it makes sense. Well, again, my story picks up where they're like, oh, they wanted him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like he was already doing or contracted to be on Family Ties.
Yes.
And it's like, well, I can't do Family Ties and do Back to the Future at the same time. But he made it work.
I guess he was doing evenings and weekends.
By not sleeping.
Yeah.
Which added to his role in the film because he was exhausted. He was tired. He was kind of
a little neurotic, a little
maniac, just because, the whole situation. Yeah. Yeah.
But that was cool. I mean, it worked out. And not just them, but you got Leah Thompson in it as well. Crispin Glover.
See, and I don't know anything, that he was in earlier or even know him, as an actor. But man, I mean, his role was just, it was over the top, weird, funny.
Yeah,
and how much
it worked.
And how much of that was him, and how much of that was, direction. It was great.
Yeah, it was great, and it worked, and he made that George, as awkward, as weird as George McFly was, and that laugh, right? That he made it. He made it, and from what I understand, I guess he's also a weird guy in real life. And whatever, something happened, but I know he did not get asked to come back for part 2. They got a completely different actor for him.
Yeah, he wanted too much money.
Oh, is that what it was?
I think so, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a great actor. Weird dude, I guess, but man, yeah. George McFly.
And Biff. Don't forget Biff.
Oh, yes. Yeah. What's his name? Thomas
Wilson.
Thomas Wilson. Yes.
Wilson. Yeah.
Yeah.
As Biff.
He and I guess, man, just looking at this movie, a lot of these characters are playing the same person, but they're playing them differently, which you know what I mean?
No, what do you mean?
Like you've got Goofy Biff, you got Bully Biff, right?
Yeah.
You got 3 Biffs. You got Bully Biff, that's in 85. You've got Bully Biff, that is in 55, and then you've got Goofy Submissive Biff in alternate
85, yeah.
Right? So that must have been something for these actors to play the same character, but just differently. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what makes this movie so fun is that it's, I mean, one of the reasons I love it is because it's, like I said, it's sci-fi, real world sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not, you know, spaceships and stuff. It's like, you know, present day at the time and an invention, a machine traveling through time. And then what I also love is it's a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think of it as a comedy, like intentional comedy, but just the situations that these people get thrown into are just funny.
Yeah.
You know, you're from the past. You're my mom, my dad when I was a kid. You know, how does this affect all these different things? You know, the diner scene when, you know, he's in there, he meets his dad,
mm-hmm.
and then he sees Goldie Wilson.
Yeah.
That's right. He's going to be mayor.
Mayor. Yeah.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
And you talk about characters. I mean, Goldie's the best.
Yeah.
What a great character.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I thought about this, I think maybe not this last time I watched this movie, but the movie before that. But so who Goldie Wilson is, you know, he's the mayor, and in 85, he's, you know, trying to run for mayor, and you know, you hear him, you know, Progress is his middle name. It's interesting that if you take part 1 and part 2, right? And you see 55, you see Hill Valley as this nice community, but by 85, something happens. It's not as good or as nice anymore.
No, it's a mess.
It's a mess, right?
Yeah.
But then you get to 2015 in part 2, it's like perfect again. Like the future looks nice, it's good. You know, the building it looks good. So really, from what I've been told, when you judge politicians, you judge them the years after that they were in charge.
Right.
Yeah. So if you look at it, so Goldie Wilson kind of took over that alternate 85.
So Mayor Red Thomas kind of messed up the town.
He messed up the town.
Okay.
Yeah. Or maybe someone before that. I don't know. But yeah, so Goldie Wilson, the true hero of Hill Valley, as I like to call him, brought hover cars to Hill Valley.
But okay, but they didn't know that that was going to be the turn of events when Goldie became mayor, that things are going to turn around. I mean, originally in the original story, right?
Right.
But I thought it was odd that the town was so horribly run down. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it was a mess. So I kind of thought that maybe they had in mind that, like, when, you know, Marty went back in time and he, you know, gives his dad that bit of advice and everything turns around and everything transforms, that the town was going to transform. Mm-hmm. But when he shows back up to Hill Valley, you know, from the past, when he came back to the future, it was still a mess.
Still a mess.
But he says, "Oh, it's great to be back.
Yeah.
Everything looks beautiful." Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, Goldie Wilson.
I kind of want to know what his story is like from mopping the floor to becoming.
From being told, like, yeah, you'll never, will be the day, you're not going to be mayor, to becoming mayor, and then
optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
I love when they're playing the music and he's just doing his job and he's just like dancing in the background. He's so funny.
Yeah,
so good.
Goldie Wilson, he's the city that everyone needs. All right, well, with that, let's talk about the scenes and the things that we love about this movie. And right off the gate, you know, I love the opening scene. it's just like that pan across all those clocks. So all you hear is just the ticking of those clocks, and then Marty. You don't even see Marty, right? You just know someone's in the room.
You see his feet.
And you see someone start messing with all this like high tech equipment, and that sound. Like there's something about that speaker sound, right? That
yeah, the humming, he's like, and he's ramping up the dial,
mapping it, and then you realize, oh yeah, he's about to play. Which, can they make a speaker that big? Is that a real thing?
You need a big magnet. I think that would be the big thing.
Okay.
You can get a magnet that big.
But I'm not a musician, but if you do get a speaker that big, you probably shouldn't stand in front of it, right?
It'd probably knock you down.
Yeah.
I did think it was kind of cheesy that it like cracked, because speakers are like more like paper and fabric. They don't like crack like plaster.
Yeah.
But who cares? It's fun, right?
Yeah. And it sends them through the wall.
Yeah.
And that's when you get your first look at Marty. It's him looking at the broken speaker.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that scene.
Dog gives him a call and he's late for school.
Yeah.
And then Huey Lewis' song kicks in.
Are you a big Huey Lewis fan?
I was going to ask you that. No. I mean, I did like a couple of his songs, but you owned his sports album, didn't you?
No.
Oh, no. For some reason, I thought maybe you did.
I had very few albums.
Oh, okay.
I was more of a tape guy.
Okay, well, album refers to a collection of music. It could have been on.
No, I'm not a big Huey Lewis fan outside of Back to the Future.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so.
And of course, Huey Lewis has a cameo.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah. He plays the judge.
Mm-hmm.
The judge for the music.
I'm sorry, guys. You're just too darn loud.
Which lets me think, like, what else was he listening to? What else were they like judging on? Because they had like no reaction. I mean, this is the battle of the bands, and it looked like they picked the worst judges. I know that's part of the movie and why it was funny. But it was like, these are like the worst judges for a battle of the bands high school competition.
Yeah, you got the stuffy nerdy teachers out there.
Yeah. Like what were they looking for? Because I don't know, Marty's band wasn't that like impressive. I mean, it just sounded like a normal band, but.
Well, they were a little loud,
I guess.
So we're talking about great moments. You talked about the opening with the clocks, late for school, battle of the bands. But let's talk about the DeLorean and the reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Twin Pines Mall. And Doc Brown's van is there, and he opens up the bag.
You know what I think was cool?
What?
Is that when Doc is first, he's all excited, right? He's all excited to show Marty this, record this, do that.
Yeah.
But Marty was actually like he was kind of like, wow, did you really like make a remote control car out of the DeLorean? Like Marty had no idea what he was about to witness, right? He was just there so he could film it.
Right.
He didn't comprehend what was going to happen.
Yeah, he had no clue.
But he was blown away the fact that like you that remote control is rigged up to that car.
Yeah.
So I like that because I think I would have been, just as impressed with that.
He doesn't grasp the concept of what this thing is yet either.
Yeah.
He's just like, that's a cool car. That remote's hooked up to it.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And I love how Marty is just going with it. Like Doc is just like, all right, and this, and then Einstein, and you see these clocks? They match. And then all of a sudden you're gonna see this and it's gonna happen. Marty's just going back and forth and doing all sorts of things, and finally sees the car take off. And his first reaction was like, you just incinerated Einstein. Yeah.
Just such cool shots.
So from what I'm getting, I mean, before that, Doc Brown, he's kind of a quack, right? Or at least he has that reputation. Because if you go back to Strickland was like, oh, you need to stop hanging out with that Doc Brown. He's nothing but a quack, or I think he says something.
No, he's not a quack. He's a maverick.
He's a maverick.
Yeah.
But he has a reputation as a quack, right?
A quacky maverick.
Because it's like, you see all like the news headlines that like he burnt down his house.
Yeah.
Doing something.
Yeah.
And he has all like this cool robotic dog feeder thing. So, but I think this is like the first invention that
actually worked. Yeah, but he had some money though, that mansion, right?
Yeah, he had the mansion.
He must have had something previous to this that he invented that worked.
Yeah.
Or unless he just had an inheritance.
I think he had the
I
inheritance.
think it's an inheritance, right?
Yeah. And so he just kind of spent his whole life
Yeah.
building and
things.
figuring things out. And when we learned that in 55, he hits his head on the toilet, and he gets the idea for time travel. So it's almost as if like this crazy idea, and in 55 he didn't have the technology or the means to do it, but it was like eating at him for 30 years. So maybe that's why he came across as a crazy man and somehow burnt his house down. But he always had this idea for time travel, and he had to wait 30 years to at least get the technology to do it.
So do you think Doc taught at the high school then at some point, that Marty maybe got to know him there?
I was just going to ask
Probably,
you that.
right?
How did these two meet? How did these two come across? They never explain it, I like.
Yeah,
I
he
like that.
must be. He must have been like a high school teacher or professor.
Yeah.
Right. He's local. He lives in town. He probably was a teacher in the high school,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
They got to know each other. And they probably developed a relationship because, I think, Marty's dad is weird.
Yeah.
So he doesn't really have a connection there to like an adult figure. So he probably became friends.
And Doc's like, I got this giant speaker in my house. You can use it anytime.
Yeah.
You
right.
know?
Rock and roll.
Yeah. I was going to wonder that, like, what do you think their first meeting was? How did they meet? How did they become such close friends? He's 17. I don't know how old Doc is in 85, but he's old. But it works. And I like how they don't explain that. You just know that there's this relationship there.
Well, Marty's kind of the odd man out in his family too. You think about his brother's kind of goofy, his sister's kind of goofy, his mom's she's kind of a drunk.
Kind of drunk.
Kind of, yeah. And
Not kind of.
Yeah, and then dad's an ultra kind of creepy nerd, right?
Creepy nerd.
Right.
Yeah,
so he probably doesn't like hanging out at home anyway, right?
Yeah.
So he probably I'm guessing probably hung out with Doc at the school, messed around with some of his equipment.
Yeah.
And he knows, and he knew he was going to plug into the amp, right?
I do think there's something to that, because if you look at Marty's home life, it's not great.
No.
It's he doesn't want to be there. You can tell Marty wants to be different. He doesn't want to fall in the footsteps of his parents. And my guess is Doc is so full of hope and promise of the future, even though he comes across as a weirdo and like he can't get nothing done, and he again lives in a garage basically. But he's probably like, Marty was attracted to that. Like, look, I want to be in a place where like there's hope for the future, where there's, I can, there's like a promise, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rather than just kind of being at home and everyone's just kind of like bogged down by whatever, crappy jobs and vodka.
Yeah.
And Uncle Joey in the jail.
Gilbert Joey.
But yeah, I think that's probably why Marty gravitated to Doc so much.
Yeah. And Doc, he treated him as a friend, like a genuine friend, an equal, and
not like a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
And Doc probably doesn't have family. Doesn't appear to have any family, or doesn't seem like he has any family, because he's always kind of focused on his work. Yet he gives Marty, time and attention, and that friendship developed.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Well, let's talk about when Marty finally goes back in time, and one of my favorite scenes in the movie. So it is kind of weird, like the terrorists, and they don't come out of nowhere. Like if you pay attention, there's like news, and it all kind of leads up to that moment where the terrorists want, because I guess Doc was supposed to be building a bomb for him.
Yeah, seriously, Doc, you're gonna give terrorists a fake bomb.
Yeah, and you think you're gonna get away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so Marty gets away from the terrorists, and
they chase Marty.
They chase him
in a Volkswagen bus.
Yeah, which that Volkswagen bus keeps up with the DeLorean quite a bit.
Okay,
like,
so
that's impressive.
Okay, yeah. Well, you got to think that the DeLorean wasn't really considered a fast car. I think most of them were V6. I think they were all V6, so they really didn't have a lot of punch to them.
Oh, okay.
They looked pretty sporty, but they didn't have a lot of kick.
Yeah.
And the bus that they had was a late model 75, which, for the car nerds out there, had the later Type 4 engine, which was used in the Porsche 914. So they did have a little kick to them.
Oh, okay. So it is believable.
It's somewhat believable, yeah. So the DeLorean's a little on the slow side. The later model buses had a little kick to them. So yeah, it was possible that they could have
kept up with them.
Kept up.
Yeah.
Possibly. It's plausible. Yeah.
All right.
But it was just great. I mean, Terrace's stick is, he's standing up through the sunroof with the
bazooka.
The bazooka, the grenade launcher.
Yeah. And that's when he says, let's see if you guys can do 90.
You see, yeah.
So
let's see if you bastards can do 90.
And that's when you see the true speed of the DeLorean.
And I just want to say, I use the word bastards because when my son was a little kid, saw Back to the Future for the first time, loved the movie, flipped out, and we caught him running around the backyard when we had family over saying,
okay,
you bastards!
You know what?
You bastards! And he didn't really know what he was saying, but he was just saying it.
That happened to me too with that word.
Really?
Yeah. I remember playing, and I thought I got it from Star Wars, but it's not in Star Wars. It must have been from this movie. But I remember being in my living room playing with my little action figures, and they like, you bastard. And then parents are like, what did you say? And that's when I was corrected.
Nice.
Yeah. And then I started saying, you bastard. And then I started being quiet about it.
Okay, so if any of our fans out there have a child that used bastard as his first swear word,
blame it on.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah.
Tell us a story that it was from watching Back to the Future. Because, it was a PG movie.
Yeah.
Right? So it's, clean, except for the, that word. Yeah.
All right. So back to my favorite. Once he finally goes back in time, he crashes into the barn.
Yeah.
And, he's supposed to be exactly where he is in 85. Now he's in 1955. So now the mall's not built. Nothing's developed. And there's nothing but pine trees. Even Doc says, like, I remember when this was all pine trees. As far as the eye can see.
He had this idea of breeding pine trees.
Yeah. Old man Peabody. But in 55, again, this is when science fiction magazines are taking off, sci-fi movies, and the little kid thinks that an alien just crashed into his barn, which is perfect, right?
That ain't no airplane.
Yeah.
Look.
Yeah. And because you never seen a DeLorean, the car like that before, and Marty's wearing that radiation suit. It takes off the hood, and that's when the kid says, like, he's already changing into his human form.
Yeah. And the art, and then the artwork is perfect, right? I mean, it was designed for the film because it was kind of staged the same, and the spaceship kind of looked the same, and the invader kind of looked the same, and it was perfect. Yeah,
I just picture yourself being Marty, like not truly understanding what just happened.
Yeah.
And then you got guys shooting at him. And you're trying to explain, like, hey, I'm sorry about your barn. And he takes off.
Yeah.
And then the other weird scene that I think I've talked, and I still don't know what they say, but after the car breaks down, Marty walks up to an old couple driving by. And this is 1955. You think, like, oh, people were nicer back then. People were more trusting back then. But when Marty walks up to the car, like, the old lady just starts screaming and smacking or shaking the husband, like, don't stop. Is that what she says? Like, why? I've always wondered, what were they thinking? Like, why was that old lady freaking out so much?
Because he looks weird. He's got this weird suit on, and he's just somebody. Although people would probably be nicer to a kid walking on the street, like he would need a ride.
And the old man was stopping because obviously he was slowing down. Like, but something triggered that old lady to freak out.
It was just her.
And so it will be a mystery to my dying day is why she freaked out. I need to find Zemeckis.
Yeah, but
I need Zemeckis to tell me
but you know why she freaked out?
Why?
Because it's funny.
I understand it's funny.
All the moments in this movie, like I said, it's a comedy. I don't want to say comedy. I'm just saying that the situations are all set up that there's golden moments throughout this entire movie from beginning to end. Just funny moments, and they're a little over the top sometimes, but that's okay.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying I think it's hilarious.
Okay, you just want to analyze what
I'm just more or less like, that is funny. What was she thinking? Like, what danger did she perceive seeing in Marty?
She has the comic.
Oh, yeah.
She's kind of, she's into the comics.
Yeah.
She just read that episode, that volume, and recognized him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
or she took the comic from her grandson and says, "Don't read this stuff." And
well, if Zemeckis, I know you're listening, if you can just mention in the comments as to why the old lady freaked out, I'd appreciate that. So, yeah, we'll move on from there.
Yeah. And then he shows up in the town, 1955.
1955,
And
Hill Valley.
Hill Valley, which, is it on a hill or is it in a valley? Why is it Hill Valley? It's kind of like opposite, like it kind of contradicts itself, right? Hill Valley.
I've never thought of that. You're right.
You know why?
Why?
Because it's funny.
Because it's funny.
It's just funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never thought of it that you're right. Just, I don't know, Hill Valley.
Hill Valley. Yeah.
Sounds good though.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's cool? And I think we're spoiled where we live in Southern California, and we're an hour outside of Hollywood, that we get to see a lot of these places where they filmed the movie. And like the Twin Pines Mall. Have you ever been there? It's the La Puente Mall.
Yeah,
we've seen that area.
Yeah, I went there on the Back to the Future night where the people gather and had the DeLorean on display, and they stage the chase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, so that scene where the old lady freaked out, so that's in Chino.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, and
okay.
and that is still. I mean, I thought it was developed, like, because obviously that was farmland back in when they filmed the movie, but it's not developed, so it's still
kind of looks like it down there.
Still kind of looks like it. Yeah,
I just kind of assumed they went up to like Valencia or something.
No, it's Chino.
Area.
Yeah,
Chino. Wow. Okay.
And that's another thing. There's some YouTubers that I looked up that they did all the scenes, and it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're pretty spoiled. I love that kind of stuff, seeing film locations and that they're still there. But yeah.
But 1955, I remember the 80s. In the 80s, the 50s were very nostalgic. Remember, like 50s diners, it was like, that was like the cool thing, is to go to like a 50s diner. In Pasadena, they had one, Rose City Diner. And they all dressed, like from the 50s, and they had like the jukebox selectors on the table. I mean, it was done up like the whole thing. It was super cool. So I think that was probably a big, when this movie came out, and people in general were very nostalgic for the 50s. So I mean, they poured it on when he showed up, from the cars to the people to the buildings to the music to all the cultural references and stuff. I mean, it was great. I mean, they didn't hold back.
It is kind of trippy to think that back in the 80s, for people, because you got two types of people. You got people who lived in the 50s, right? That like, oh, it's nostalgic for me to go back to that. And you got people who didn't live in the 50s but love that era, right?
Right.
And then so it worked. And now, just kind of being in my own life, I mean, at the age that I am, thinking about the past, and now like they're because I grew up in the 90s, and like this weekend is I'm going to a 90s themed party, and it's weird to think that, wow, like the time that I lived in is now like a theme for a party. It's a nostalgic time for others.
Okay, I know about this 90s themed party, but I can't think of anything. Does it feel nostalgic for you?
Not for me. I mean, kind of.
I guess, right? I mean, because it's like
I mean, I lived it. I mean, it was my formative years.
Well, what's weird is like we come out of the 70s, right? And the 70s are very,
You come out of the 70s.
Okay, I come out of the 70s, right? All right. Okay, I was a 70s kid and 80s teenager.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But you think of the styles of the 70s were very like, the bell-bottom jeans and the hippies and the flower power and, macrame and all that. It's very, you can see it, right?
Yeah.
You can, you dress up as 70s, easy, right? And then you think, oh, 80s. Yeah, we can do 80s. Yeah, it's neon colors and, big hair and parachute pants and all that kind of, so you can do 80s, right? But then you get to 90s, it's just like, well, I think the culture said we're not gonna be this flamboyant anymore. We're just gonna be boring.
You know what's interesting about the night? Like, you're right. I don't know if I could describe it, but I would know it if I saw it. You know what I mean?
I think the best way to describe the 90s is Seinfeld.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, then
Seinfeld and Friends.
Yeah. So what's the attire?
I don't know.
Jeans, white tennis shoes, and a. That's what I mean, right?
So I think I just saw an article about that if they remade Back to the Future, which they never will, thank God they never will.
They
but it would be Marty going back to the 90s.
See,
like if it was happened today,
and that would be boring.
Yeah, it would be. It wouldn't be as fun.
No, not at all.
No. Yeah.
No. Yeah, they can't do that. So Robert Zemeckis, we know you still have power in Hollywood, right? So if anybody even
bury it.
Yeah, if anybody
it.
brings it up, just squash it like a bug.
Yeah.
Squash it like a bug.
Yeah, don't even do a part 4. You know I didn't like part 3. Don't do a part 4.
No. Okay, so Marty's back in 1955, and of course he does run into his parents, and that messes up the timeline. So now he's got to fix things, right? Which is hilarious because Mom likes him and not his dad.
Yeah.
He's getting entanglements with Biff, and so in the process of trying to get the parents back together, one of the funniest moments is when he shows up at his dad's house in the middle of the night, dressed up as a space alien to try to shock him into getting together, taking his mom out on a date.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he's got the radiation suit. He's got his cassette player, and he's playing the cassette Edward Van Halen, which I thought was funny. It's like, was Van Halen, did they refer to him as Edward Van Halen, or was it always Eddie Van Halen? Or were they being funny?
I don't know.
Being funny by making it Edward because it sounds, just because it's funny. It's funnier.
Interesting, yeah.
Right, okay. And then, of course, the next day, it's like, Darth Vader came
from the planet
Vulcan. And said, if I don't take Lorraine to the dance, he's going to melt my brain.
Yeah. Which is crazy, like to think like that would be kind of torturous. You never heard music like that, and to be like on your, because he puts the headphones on him, puts it all the way up, and that would hurt.
I've never researched it to find out if that is the real beginning to a song, which it must be, right?
I don't know. Yeah.
But like the squealing guitar at the beginning seems.
Yeah.
Okay, that's on my Back to the Future research project to find that song.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
It is such a weird, again, it's a weird little story arc about the whole mom falling in love with Marty, but it works. It works in the movie. It makes sense. They make it make sense because, in a sense, the way the mom fell in love with George, the way Lorraine fell in love with George, is the same way she fell in love with Marty.
Yeah,
just taking care of, like, because the dad almost ran him over with a car.
Yeah, I think when they presented the idea to the studios to make the film, everybody got kind of creeped out about the idea, but it's not. They completely missed the point that this is an innocent time. Relationships were more innocent. And there wasn't anything creepy about it. It was just this young girl falls in love or is interested in this kid that shows up.
She wants to take care of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny.
It could have been anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And was she a little over the top? But again, it's funny. It's just so funny to be in that situation.
So I've always wondered, obviously Marty fixed it. That's the whole resolution of the movie. And he makes, George has that moment with Biff where he punches him, knocks him out, creates the alternate 85. So then when we come back, we've got a more assertive George. He's an author. Lorraine's not a drunk. The kids are, they're achievement getters. Now it's almost as if Marty is kind of the low man on the totem pole. And Biff's like, he cleans his cars. Like Biff's, kind of goofy Biff now.
What I always thought was funny is that he did change the past. He gave his dad that, piece of advice, that forever changed his destiny. Yet they still live in the same house.
Live in the same house.
But
everything has changed, but
it works. I mean, you couldn't have put him in a different house and everything because it's not funny.
Right.
You don't have that you don't have that transition.
It's like you get a BMW, but you're still going to live in this house.
The same house. Yeah. The same little house. And
like the brother, you're going to work in a nice office, but you're still going to live at home.
Still the same.
Yeah. But anyways, so back to that. I always wondered, like, did like Lorraine or George ever be like, you know what? Who our son Marty kind of looks like? Do you remember that guy, Calvin Klein?
Like that kid at the
Remember Calvin Klein from high school?
But I think that's what's fun about this movie. Is it is silly. There are silly things, and if you think about it too much,
and then I don't know,
but it's so good.
Knowing what took. It's only 30 years. I mean, it's not like it's that long or ancient, right?
Right.
for George to be look, I know our story. I know you kind of had the hots for Calvin Klein. We have a son years later. He starts looking like Calvin Klein. I'd start to wonder.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. So with that, let's talk about the very end of the movie. One of my other favorite scenes. It's not a funny scene, but I just think it's a really well acted movie or well acted scene. It's when Marty and Doc kind of say goodbye, because Marty, he finds 1955 Doc, and to help him get home. But one thing we didn't mention, for those who haven't seen the movie, before Marty leaves to go back in time, when he's escaping the terrorists, he watches Doc get killed by the terrorists.
Yeah, they shoot him.
That's like his friend. Like, he sees him, and they shoot him down, and he dies. And so Marty escapes. He finds Doc again, and then so for him to see Doc again, it's like, wow, you're alive. I get to see you again. And for anyone who's ever lost somebody, I mean, that's a big deal. And then for Doc, who, again, let's go back to the psyche of who Doc is, this maverick who, probably has no friends, is a loner. He finds somebody who knows who he is, who believes in him, who kind of almost like pumps up his ego in a sense, like, wow, I do make something that works. Because remember, he has that stupid, doesn't work. So he's like, I'm not a failed inventor. I get to live to 1985. So for Doc, that's an important thing there too. And, so when they have that scene, there's a lot in the scene that's going on than just a simple goodbye. It's Marty saying goodbye. I'm never going to see you again because you're going to die. And for Doc, it's like, the only person that's ever believed in me, my only friend, I'm not going to be able to see or talk to about the next couple of days for the next 30 years.
Yeah, and he even says it,
Yeah, like how hard that must have been.
I've got to wait 30 years. Yeah. Yeah.
So I just think it's a really good scene. It's a really good scene between both those actors. And that's when he tries to give him the letter. Read the letter, Doc, because in 1985, you're going to be gunned down.
No!
Don't want to know the future.
I refuse to accept the consequences. Yeah.
So that's a cool scene. And, well, he comes back, but he says, I figured, what the heck?
Yeah.
Read the note anyways. Where's the bulletproof vest? And
it's perfect. I mean, it's perfect. Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, like, how long did it take for him to actually put that letter together? Like, in what, like, was it in the 60s? Was it in the 70s when he finally was like, or when he finally met a young Marty, like, maybe I should go back and put that letter together?
Well, obviously he picked up the pieces.
Yeah.
He had all the pieces. So obviously that night that he went back, he's probably like, I better put this together. But I bet he waited.
Yeah. To the right moment. Anyways, but I've always wondered, we get to see what alternate 85 looked like for Marty and his family. What did alternate 85 look for Doc? Did he still burn down his house? Did he still...
Oh, yeah, we don't know.
We don't know any of that.
Because he makes an appearance at the end, because he ends up traveling to the future, comes back.
Yeah. But we don't know what alternate Doc looked like.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it was good.
It's probably good.
I mean, it saved his life. He had more bulletproof vest at the very least.
I have a feeling it probably wasn't much different, because if the time machine was his big success as an experiment, he probably hasn't had any other ones since then.
Yeah.
Which probably means he wasn't making much money, which he's probably still living in that same house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Jim, do you have any movie magic for us?
Movie magic moments. Not really, but I do have a couple of tidbits.
Okay.
All right. So I had a friend, co-worker, who had in his possession briefly the mind reading hat.
Oh,
the Doc Brown hat. Yeah. So I put it on.
Did you?
Yeah, it was cool.
Did it come with that suction thing?
No, he just had the hat. I mean, he might have had it there. I don't remember. I just remember he did have the helmet.
Oh, that's neat.
So that was fun.
Was it like the actual one from the movie, or was it a replica?
Yeah, okay. He was fixing it for whoever owned it at the time. Yeah, so that was cool.
Yeah, it is neat.
Yeah. And then my other tidbit is the Burger King in the beginning of the film. That was it's in Burbank, Olive Avenue. That was just a block up the street from the special effects shop that I was working at. So we did frequent that place for lunch, right? And we identified where Doc's house would have been placed.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much where the dumpsters were. There was really no room there for a house.
So that whole, like, that garage, that was just facade, right?
Yeah, that was just a facade. And the parking lot there was a Home Depot. It was probably a home club at the time, and Toys R Us. The restaurant in the background was there forever. Do you remember that? Lancers. And then across the street was this place called Foam Mart, where we bought all our foam goods for special effects projects. So, yeah, Burger King.
Burger King. That's
Which
cool.
you notice in the beginning of the film, he has all those Burger King wrappers on the floor. Yeah.
So, yeah, just walk on over to Burger King.
Walk on over to Burger King and have some breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's my movie magic moment.
Awesome.
Now, you visited some of the locations, or how many?
Yeah. So I've been to the place in Chino,
Okay.
And I've been to the mall. I've been to that Doc Brown's house, the 55 house.
All right, we didn't mention that. Yeah, the Gamble House.
The Gamble House in Pasadena.
Frank Lloyd Wright, famous Gamble House, is in Pasadena.
I saw Lorraine's house. I think it was Lorraine's house.
Oh.
And then, of course, going to Universal Studios, actually seeing the clock tower.
Yeah.
Been on that a couple times.
You know what's weird, though, is when you take the tour and you go into that town square, it doesn't look like the movie.
No, it doesn't.
At all. You're like looking at it. It's like, this isn't it.
Yeah.
This isn't it. Because of the angles that they shot the thing at, it looks completely different. Unrecognizable, practically.
The only place I haven't been, surprisingly, is actually Marty's house.
Yeah,
So,
no, where was that? I know I looked it up once, but I don't remember.
It's somewhere close. I mean, ish.
Yeah.
But we could go there. Maybe we should do that sometime.
Yeah.
You got to see this movie on location.
On location, we can hit
a bunch of places.
we can hit Burger King.
Get a Burger King.
It's probably still there.
Yeah, I heard Burger King is not doing so good.
I do want to go to the Gamble House. I did venture out there once, and it was on a Back to the Future event day.
Okay.
You couldn't get in.
Oh, yeah.
No place to park. I mean, the line went around the block.
I think they do showings there, right? Like on the lawn?
I don't know if they did a showing, but I know it was a day where they had the DeLorean in the driveway. Mm-hmm. And you can go in the house. Yeah, you need to go on a day that's not a Back to the Future day if you actually want to see anything.
Nice.
I mean, yeah, but yeah, and the mall, the Puente Hills Mall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, let's talk about kind of the bigger theme. Again, we believe that God speaks to us in many different ways. And for me, at least, I think he speaks to me through a lot of movies. And there's always a deeper story going on here. And this was, I wouldn't say it was a hard one. So, I mean, I've seen this movie a lot, and I've used this movie as a illustration through a lot of sermons that I've done before. So I kind of had an idea before I watched the movie, but I don't want to do that with this podcast. I really want to kind of be fresh and something new. And I did. I got something new that I realized this whole time, or this new time watching it. And it's the idea of discipleship. And ironically, I was teaching a baptism class last night, and I kind of almost, God works in great ways, mysterious ways.
Did you make some Back to the Future references in your baptism class?
No, it was almost like he used a baptism class to help me see something different in the movie. So
he was prepping you for this podcast, really right now.
I do. Nice. I think so.
All right.
But the idea of discipleship and how no one can just be a disciple, right? Like, it's not a position. You're not prayed over and all of a sudden one day I'm a disciple now. But a disciple is someone who is made. And, and that's kind of, it just doesn't happen. That's why Jesus says, go out and make disciples of all nations. Like, there's a process. There's something to it that you're just not, you're not born a disciple. And so last night watching it, And Marty says that line, and the line throughout the whole movie is the idea of, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. Which, I think in our world, it's like, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. But anyways, that line, right? It's throughout the whole movie. Marty says it in the very beginning, and he says he heard it from Doc. Like it's one of these teachings that he got from Doc. He says, like Doc says, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. And I think going back to what I said before with the idea of hope that Doc always had, like he just had hope that if you can just put your mind to it, you can keep doing it. Just keep going, and eventually you're going to make a time machine. And so Marty really gravitated to that. So in a way, Doc discipled Marty, right? He discipled Marty to who he needed to be in this movie. So that when Marty goes back into time,
he has a little bit of discipleship for his father.
Now he's with his father. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he says the same line. Like, look, George, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. Because George is just like, I can't do this. I can't talk to girls. And, I write these stories, but I can't face rejection. I'm scared to do this. And so, so then you got Doc, who discipled Marty, and then you got Marty who's discipling George. And what makes this movie the movie is that, Marty just didn't go up to him like, hey, go meet this girl. Like there was a lot of moments that led up to finally George being who he needed to be at the end with Marty's, teaching. So he got to disciple his dad. And then when you get back to 1985, the alternate 85, when they're opening his thing and he's getting his first book, George says it. He goes, see what I told you. You put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. And again, it's this idea that like there's this teaching, there's these words that have just carried over and had positive effects on who these men became. So
that's good.
Yeah, and I think that's just what for a church to do church right, they need to be making disciples. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're not discipling to correct people. Mm-hmm. You're discipling to encourage people for a positive effect in their life that they can in turn, make disciples as well.
And to know that it's a process and that when people come to our church, and I'm not saying every church because there are some bad churches out there. I'll be real. I know a lot of people have church hurt, but as far as our church goes, and what we believe is that we know that there's a process to, for people to learn, for people to give up the things, the sin in their lives. That it's not an easy thing to do. It's not like, oh, you just need to be perfect now. You need to you need to stop doing these things now. We know it's a process. We know that, there's, forgiveness and dealing with a lot of things. So, and that's what discipleship is. And I think God knows that. God knows that it's a process. That's why God gets us in the beginning and says, oh, while we were still sinners, he got us. He died for us. Didn't ask us to be perfect first. He got us while we were still sinning because he knows it's a process. It's not a quick cleansing. So
if we put our minds to it,
accomplish anything.
We can accomplish anything.
Yeah. So yeah, that was what the deeper thing I got out of this movie, and I really liked that. I really do like the idea of like Doc, Marty, George.
Yeah.
And then George back to his son, in a sense. So
great movie.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's time for our final battle.
This was a tough one.
So first, before we get into that,
okay. Yeah.
Do you know the scorecard? So we've done this.
I don't know the scorecard. I'm not that competitive. You know me. I'm not a competitive person.
I know, and that's what makes this funny.
In some things, but you're very competitive. So what's the score? I don't know. I don't care. What do you got?
That's what makes it good. So I went back to all our 9 episodes.
Of course you did.
And I watched them. I'm like, well, where are we at? Some of it's a bit confusing.
Oh, Doc went down.
All right.
Oh, he's down.
Some of it's a bit confusing, but it is what it is. All right. So in The Goonies, our first episode, we tied Okay, there was no winner. We tied on that.
We tied on the Goonies?
We tied on the Goonies.
Oh.
Return of the Jedi. I won that.
Wait a minute. I thought I won that.
You did not.
Wait, I thought you were all like hurt because you lost that
I thought
one.
I was too, but I was wrong.
Oh, all right.
I won Jedi.
Okay.
Nacho Libre. You took that one. That was your first win. Okay. And then we got to Stand By Me, which by far I feel like was our best battle. Because it really came down, well, it ended up being a tie as well, but it was a really good one.
Okay.
So if you want to see a good trivia battle, check out the Stand By Me episode.
Stand By Me.
And then we got to 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea, one of your favorite movies.
No, it's not. It's 20,000.
20,000 Leagues. Sorry, 20,000 Leagues. I apologize.
Right.
20,000 Leagues. I won that one.
Yeah, I lost that one. Yeah.
Which is weird.
That's kind of weird,
Right.
but okay.
Then we got to Iron Giant. I won that one as well. And then you get to my favorite movie, my number one, Raiders of the Lost Ark. And you won that one.
I won it.
You did.
I did.
Then we did Vacation, and I won that one. And then we just did Ford versus Ferrari, and you took that. So if you look at it, we've got 2 ties. I've got 4. You've got 3.
I'm still kind of questioning this whole trivia game anyway, because I feel like we should have an outside person
Come up with the questions?
Yeah, because it's like, because a lot of times when I'm picking out the questions, it's like, oh, he's going to know this, or this is going to be too hard.
I know.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. Well, let's
get into the Back to the Future. This is a big one.
It's a big one.
Because if you win, we tie it. There's no champion. If I win, it's...
So there's a champion?
Well,
what does the champion win? Okay.
I don't know.
In your head. Okay.
In my head, there's a champion for everything.
Okay.
All right. So,
all right,
Jim, because you won the last one, you can choose who goes first.
All right. And
I will say, throughout the course of the conversation of the Back to the Future, you did say one of my questions. So I had to, I wanted to ask who was the 1955 mayor. You said Red Thomas. So I'm going to eliminate that question.
All right. And I was careful because there were moments where I wanted to add something to my discussion that would have given it away. So.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? This is so you are a bit competitive. All right. So go for it.
Well, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
All right. So do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go
I'll go first.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay. Very beginning of the movie, you know, Marty enters Doc's house. We see all the clocks, all the crazy gadgets and stuff going on there, right? Okay. What was the food that was burning in that opening sequence?
It was toast.
Yes, toast.
Okay. I almost said eggs because I know you see the eggshell, right? But it was toast.
It was toast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And it was funny toast because it would like go down and pop back up, go down and pop up, right? It just those little moments that are just so good, right? Yeah. All right. Yeah.
All right. So it's a point for me.
Point for Michael.
Okay. In the same scene, let's go with this one. In the same scene, in the beginning, you see the clocks.
Yeah.
What time is it? Now, there's 2 possible answers. I'll accept either or.
Okay, well, the real answer in my head would be 8:25, because that's how late he is.
In the very beginning.
But in the beginning, he's actually...
I'm going to rephrase this question.
Yeah.
In the very opening shot.
In the very opening shot.
You're seeing the clocks.
Yeah.
What time is it? And I'll accept 2 answers. Because you're onto something when you said that.
Yeah, it's like how much time did he spend before the 8:25 mark did he take to play with his electronic stuff? See, now it's just a wild guess because I don't know. I'm going to say 8 o'clock.
No. So in the opening shot, they show a bunch of clocks, but they do show not a digital, but like you do see the time.
Okay.
So you're not just assuming where it is on the analog clock.
Okay.
So the 2 answers are 7:53 or 8:18. So it's one of those 2.
It's 8:18.
Yeah, technically in real life it's 8:18 because everything's 25 minutes ahead.
Yeah.
All right. So well, it's a bummer for you.
Bummer for me.
All
right. I'm guessing you're going to get this because I kind of did a comic book question the last time around on Iron Giant. So you might get this, but I'm going to do it anyway. All right, the comic book when he crashes into the barn, right? The kid holds up the comic book. It was the Tales from Space was the comic book, right? And it featured a story, Space Zombies from blank.
Mars.
No,
That was a lucky guess. Everything was from Mars back then, but I guess not. All right, what was it?
Pluto.
Pluto.
Space Zombies from Pluto. Yes, I was thinking
that
you
was
were.
good.
I was thinking you were going to write that down and throw that in there. No.
You know, just to preface it for our audience, just so you know, we do get these questions. Like we show them to our sound engineer, and he does always say that Jim's questions are a bit more brutal than mine. So take that for.
But I've kind of pulled back a little bit, right?
All right.
All right. Yeah.
So just that's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
That was a good one.
All right.
All right. My next question. Oh man. All right. In 1985, the Clock Tower building. What was it? What was the actual building? Like what kind of work was done there?
Oh. It's the courthouse.
Final answer?
Yeah, courthouse.
In 2015, it's a courthouse. In 1985.
That's what I was going for, was because I remember it being
social services building. There's a big sign that says social services. Yeah.
Do I get a half a point? No, because it's the wrong movie.
It's the wrong movie.
Right.
And I don't know what it is in 55. There's nothing there. I don't know if it's like City Hall or what, but I don't know.
Library. It's probably a library.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Well,
so it's still 1-0.
All right. Well, I was told by sound engineer that these two were too brutal. So I'm kind of guessing you'll probably know this one.
So the comic book one, that wasn't a brutal one?
No.
Okay. That seemed a little rough. Okay, but go for it.
All right. I thought we need to have an outside person do the questions just because.
All right.
But then we're going to have like timers and buzzers and stuff.
Right.
All right. Let's see. Doc Brown's house.
Mm-hmm.
And in his little living room study over the fireplace, he has 4 pictures of inventors.
Oh, 4?
There are 4 of them.
Okay.
Can you name all 4?
Edison.
Yes.
Einstein.
Yes.
Newton.
Oh, yes. I didn't think you were going to get that one.
It's the final one. I don't know. This is a guess. Tesla?
No.
Oppenheimer?
Ben Franklin.
Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
Mr. Electricity himself.
I don't think that Tesla would have been like a person, a notable person. He kind of came into popularity or into the people's minds later.
That's true.
Yeah. Huh.
All right. Well, all right, here's my final question.
All right.
Oh, jeez. All right. What was the name of the band that played at the Fish Under the Sea dance?
It was Marvin Berry and the Starlighters.
Nice. All right, you're on the board. Now we're tied. Very good.
Marvin Berry.
Brother
of, or cousin of
Chuck
Berry.
Yeah.
For some reason, he didn't want to take the new sound for himself. He was going to give it to his cousin. Why? Because it's funny.
Because it's funny. That new sound you've been looking for.
Well, listen to this.
Yeah. All right. What's your final question?
Oh, another. Oh, I thought we were done. I got one more question.
Oh, that was it? You asked 3?
Wait, did I do 3? I did the toast. I did Pluto, and I did the inventors. Yeah.
So we tied. You want to do more questions? I got some more questions.
I got another question.
All right. We don't want to enter a tie, do we? All right, go for it.
No. Should I give you an easy one? I'm going to give you an easy one because
All right.
this other one's too brutal. I'm going to ask you anyway afterwards just for fun.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Oh, this is so easy. I'm going to do it anyway. What time did Marty have to meet Doc at the Twin Pines Mall? The very first time you met. What time? Meet me at Twin Pines Mall
at 1:25.
Is that your final answer?
No. Clearly. No. 1:15.
Ah, dang, I should have just...
That should have been the first thing he said.
Yeah.
Cheating.
Well, you gave me the option.
I should have said no.
You gave me the option.
Oh. But you always do that to me. Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
All right.
So,
Well,
I guess I got it wrong.
No, I mean...
What's it doing?
All right, here's my question.
All right.
How many tardies did Marty get from Strickland?
I know it was his final one. Like, and this makes something... 3.
4.
4. Oh.
He got the 4th one there.
Yeah.
Jennifer grabs him like, Strickland's looking for you. You
Yeah.
get caught. This will be 4 in a row, Marty.
This will be 4 in a row. And then Strickland gets in his face.
All
And they
right.
touch noses. You know, they touch noses or noses touch. That always bugged me. When he gets in his face, you're going to be just like your father, a no good
McFly ever
amounted
amounted to anything in the history of
Hill
Hill
Valley. Boom, noses touch.
Yeah, that's a lawsuit these days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's good, though.
All right. Do you have another question?
I got a real hard one. I got a really hard one. You want it? I'm going to give it to you anyway.
Go for it. I mean, so like, I guess, so the question I asked about the time, that's no good, or is that a half a point?
I'll give you half a point.
Okay, we'll give it half a point.
Okay. Lorraine Baines, her siblings at the dinner table. There's 3 of them at the table.
Okay.
Uncle Joey's in the crib,
Mm-hmm.
right? Give me one name of one of the kids at the table. They say him. She says, this is blah, blah, and this is blah, blah. And Uncle Joey, he's in the crib.
You know what's funny? Like, I actually know the real name to one of those actors, Jason Harvey.
From Wonder Years.
Wonder Years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man. I don't know. Jimmy?
Oh, you're just guessing.
But only if I'm wrong.
All right.
Yeah. Jimmy.
No. We
All right.
got Milton.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Milton. Sally. That's kind of an
Yeah.
easy one to remember, right, Sally?
No.
Toby. Well,
That's rough, man.
all right.
All right. Well, this is it for you. You have to answer this right.
All right.
And it's my last question.
All right.
So, okay. If you get this right, you win. We should have just ended it with a tie. Dang it. Because you're going to probably get this one.
All right.
Oh, I've got 2. All right. All right. How many? Okay, in the very beginning, not the very beginning, but when they first met, and Doc's showing him the time machine, and Doc's about to go on the trip, and he's excited, right? He says, I'm going to go this many years into the future. How many is that?
$30.
No. 25.
25.
25. It's done. It's done.
He says at the end, I'm going to wait. Yeah,
In the end, he goes 30.
30. It's going to take 30 years, but that's,
But in the beginning, he's going to go 25.
25.
Which would have been 2010 for him.
Yeah.
He'd have been really disappointed.
Really disappointed. And nothing going on.
Nothing going on.
Nothing
in
interesting.
2010.
No.
Yeah. Bummer.
Bummer.
Wow, it's over.
That's it.
I did it. Well, what's your final thoughts?
Final thoughts.
And your ranking.
Okay, my final thoughts. And I just want to say that this is a perfect film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from my perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when films get put together, you can get the best director, you can get the best producer, the best actors, the best sound people, everything, but it doesn't make a great film.
Mm-hmm.
You can't set out to make a perfect film, but everything fell into place that made this movie good. And it's kind of like the creative process too, because not only did things kind of fall into place, but they kind of beat it around until stuff worked. Like, Eric Stoltz isn't working. We got to get this guy. And in the time,
that's a huge gamble.
It's a huge gamble
To fire your lead after you filmed a lot of it.
Yeah, and even The Time Machine was written as a refrigerator. I mean, how would it have been if they stuck with that? It would have been kind of lame,
Dumb.
right?
Would have been dumb.
Things would just fell into place that just worked, and the timing was good, and the acting was great, and even the musical score. It was like, Alan Silvestri?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you say his name? Yeah, I mean, when he did the score for this movie, it was like, what do you want? And Zemeckis was like, I want it big. I want it grand. I want it just like, this is the most amazing adventure movie. And you think about, when you describe the movie as to what it's about, you don't think big, grand adventure, but he did it. And it's just like that soundtrack just boom. It's awesome. It's in your head. So this movie is
it's
great.
iconic. It stays with you.
Oh, it stays with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. So perfect film for me.
Film for you.
And it's all the pieces fall into place. Love the movie. Absolutely love it.
Yeah. It's such a, in many movies that I've seen now in my life, you kind of look at Back to the Future as it is kind of a simple story, but they perfected it. You know what I mean? Like, time machine, you go back in time, you have all your interactions, you go back, you fix things. But they perfected it. And it is so good to see that with, the acting, like I was going to mention too, the soundtrack, because that song, just like Indiana Jones, just like Jaws, it's iconic. That for the most part, 90% of people, when they hear that, they know that's Back to the Future.
They know exactly what it's from. Yeah.
And it's just so good. So you rank this as a 10.
It's a 10.
10.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna make you feel. I'm gonna make you mad at me.
No, I can understand. It's not.
So
you could be really critical of it and say the stuff doesn't make sense
not
and stuff.
The criticalness of it obviously the time travel stuff is silly. But as a kid, you don't know that until you start.
And it's a good silly.
But it's a good silly.
You go with it, and it works.
That stuff is not, doesn't bother me. But I have to say, and the only reason why it's not a 10 for me, because there are two scenes in this movie that I've always cringed, that I still do to this day, that I wish just weren't in it for me. So for me, it's a 9.8. Still high. If
we had more time, I would say, don't tell me. I want to figure it out, but just do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're very close to it. One is and even as a kid, I never understood it too. I never understood why you have this big hero moment with George. He punches Biff out, and then 5 minutes later, he's getting punked by the redhead with Lorraine. Like you just knocked out the biggest bully in the whole movie. But you have your hero moment only to be then brought down again. I don't get it. Even as a writing, I just like, why do that?
I think it's because, I think immediately after you do that, you're like, you start to kind of draw back, but then hey, wait a minute. I just laid down Biff. I can do this.
I guess
I can kind of see why you would see it as that. Like, it doesn't make sense.
But now that the way you're explaining it, I guess it then shows like he's going to be assertive for the rest of his life.
Yeah. I think it probably would have played out better if he didn't, if he's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It works either way.
Okay. The other thing, Marty playing the song. Not that he's doing it. I love the fact that he gets up and starts playing it, and then he does the whole riff. I love all that. And I love how even just like at the end, like Lorenz says, that's very interesting music, Marty.
Yeah.
That's such a mom thing to say, right? I love all that. What I don't love is it is so obvious that it is not Michael J. Fox singing. They should have done a better job of finding the right voice for him.
You know, it's weird because I always kind of thought it did sound a little bit
to
like
me,
him.
it just sounds so off. And to me, like, it's like, wow, someone needs to get fired for that.
Maybe in my mind of seeing it so many times, that voice is, but I never
you could tell
questioned
it's a 30-year-old man singing that song, and then not Michael J. Fox. And I mean, obviously, I don't think he's a singer. They had to get somebody, but they could have done a better job. So those are my two gripes with the movie. But I love the scene. I love the guitar.
Oh, it's a great scene.
And playing.
Yeah.
It's just the voice didn't match up. So for me, 9.8, still high. Still one of my favorite movies of all time.
So it's a point per cringe.
I guess. And I never can, because there's a lot of movies that have dumb things that I can get over pretty quickly, but for some reason, in that scene when he starts singing, it just
it's his singing voice.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Nah. All right, well, that wraps it up for us. That wraps it up for our first season of You Gotta See This Movie. We're not done. So even though we're going to be taking a break, we're going to be coming back in the holiday time. So we've got some holiday movies coming up. We got Halloween and we got some Christmas stuff coming. So look for that come October and December. And and if there are movies that you want us to talk about, we can't guarantee that we're going to do them.
No, you know why? You know what the hardest part of this podcast is like narrowing them down to movies, because there's just so many of them.
There is so many of them. But you know what? Feel free to, in the comments, to tell us what movies that you want us to talk about, and maybe we'll do it.
And maybe we'll tell you no.
And maybe we'll say no.
No, you don't need to see that movie.
Yeah. So.
Well, it would be nicer than that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
All right. Well, that's it. And I don't know. That's it.
Is that it? I could go for some peanut brittle right now.
Such an old man thing.
What's an old man thing?
Peanut brittle. Like, I can remember my grandpa eating peanut brittle. Like, just like that.
Peanut brittle's an old man thing?
When have you ever seen anyone eat peanut brittle in the last 20 years? Like, as a that.
Oh, as a
like,
thing?
hey, we're at a dinner, and you know, my grandparents, I can remember after dinner parties would bring out the peanut brittle.
I guess.
And to me, it's always like, oh, that's like an old person thing.
Candy.
Since my grandparents have died, I don't think I've ever had peanut brittle.
So you've never like gotten peanut brittle like from Back to the Future? Like, oh, it's a box of peanut brittle. We've done that several times in my family. You get the peanut brittle, you put it in a bowl, you make the George voice. It's fun, right?
I don't have a cool enough family.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, didn't Ed make peanut brittle?
I mean, I've had peanut brittle here and there, but not like as a
Ed.
dinnering thing.
Ed from church made peanut brittle.
Yeah.
And he's old. You know, if Ed ever listens to this podcast, I don't think he listens to podcasts.
He might be old, but he can still run us 10 times over.
Yeah, that guy, man. He can run. Yeah.
So
It's the peanut brittle. It's the power.
It's the power of the peanut brittle.
Peanut brittle.